Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Rewind that. It's your girl, Miss K. If this is your first time coming across my channel, welcome. Please be sure to subscribe if you like the vibe and hit that notification bell so you know when I upload more videos like this one. Alright guys, today we are going to be going over the latest episode of Godfather of Harlem, Season 2, Episode 10, guys. This was the season finale, alright, called The Hate That Hate Produced. Alright, and this was a hard one, guys. Hard one for me to watch. But let's get into it, all right? So we got 2 deaths, an arrest, and an assassination attempt, all right? Let's get into it. So the episode starts off with the news that there was a teenager shot, right? A black young teen shot and killed by a police officer. And so we see that Bumpy is trying his best to convince his wife, Mamie, and his daughter, Elise, not to go out there to protest. He feels like nothing good can come out of it. But you know what? They're going to go anyway, right? Next, we have Chin talking with Lombardi and Ernie, and they're just basically saying that nobody has heard from Bonanno in weeks. So Ernie wants to know if Chin is upset that Bumpy took the connect. And Chin is like, no, as far as I'm concerned, me and him are square. Let him have the headaches, you know? Then we get an interruption by Chin's lawyer, who comes in to tell him the bad news that he has a contact that has information, that Morgenthau has an informant that is very close to him willing to testify. And when he finds out who it is, guys, you know, Chin is like, no, this can't be. So basically, the lawyer is telling him that it's his daughter. So, you know, obviously the news is too much for him to bear, and he just gets up and walks away from the lawyer, okay? Next, Chance and Nat get the shipment of the Duji, and everything is going according to plan, right? But we already know that this is not going to be for long, okay? So they send Monsieur 98 on his way. Meanwhile, back in Harlem, we got Mamie and Elise. They're doing their little protest thing, right? And so as they're chanting about no killer cops, this one stupid freaking lady decides that she wants to do her chant in front, like she wants to go right in the cop's face and do the chant, right? And it was just like, why did you do that? So the cop basically gets rough with her, and it causes a whole melee, honey. So because of this, what was supposed to be a peaceful protest turned out to be unruly real quick, right? And that's how the riots begin. We got people throwing objects through windows and all kinds of stuff, you know, trying to fight back with the cops, and it was just a mess, guys. Next, Chin goes to confront Stella, and he is in a freaking rage, okay? And she tries to let him know that, no, Dad, that's not what it is. I'm not a confidential informant, blah, blah, blah. So Chin says, no, that's BS. Feynman told me that you were a confidential informant. So this is when Stella explains everything. She's like, no, Dad, you know, a couple of months ago, I was so angry with you. You hurt me, so I wanted to hurt you back, you know? And so when she explained everything to him that way, he cooled off, you know, but he also let her know that she was hurting him too, especially with this information that he's finding out, right? And so bottom line, guys, after this, what did he do? He locked her in the room. Just like after they locked her in the room after Teddy died. He done locked her in the freaking room again. Like, this is just crazy. This grown girl that he keeps locked up. All right. Oh, yeah. But before we move on, I forgot to mention that she also told Chin that Morgenthau has her confessing that she killed Benny because she was talking to Uncle Louie. All right. So, you know, now Chin is pissed that Uncle Louie knows about this whole situation and he didn't tell. But I am jumping ahead a little bit. We're going to get there in a moment. All right. But here's the thing, guys. She says to her dad, don't worry, we fixed it, right? And this is the moment where I was waiting for him to say, you fixed it. How did you fix it? But he did not. And if he would have asked that question, who knows, guys? The episode may not have turned out the way it did. And we're going to talk about that later as well. Next, Morgenthau comes to bother Bumpy while he's getting his shoe shined. You know, and he's just letting him know that through wiretaps, he knows about the shipment with Marseille and all this other crap, right? But what I really want to get to the bottom of with this conversation is that Morgenthau tells Bumpy that, you know, if Bumpy would have chosen a different path in life, basically not to be a criminal, he think they would have been friends because they both want to be the best at what they're doing. And when Morgenthau mentions that it's unfortunate that Bumpy chose crime, he says, listen, being a criminal is not about a choice, it's about survival. So, Morgenthau's like, he's not trying to hear this because he knows about basically being ostracized and everything and oppressed. Because his family, when they were immigrated here, they were ostracized and treated as second-class citizens. And still, he chose to become a lawyer, not a criminal. But then Bumpy hits him with something very surprising, all right? Bumpy tells Morgenthau that he chose to be a lawyer too. He put in the application in City College, and once they found out that Ellsworth Johnson was black, his application was denied. Then, after stumping Morgenthau, Bumpy steps down and he lets him know, look, we do share common things in history with oppression. But if you think that the color of my skin didn't affect the choices that I made, you must be blind. So this obviously had Morgenthau thinking, and for whatever reason, he kind of felt some kind of sympathy for Bumpy's situation, and especially seeing that Bumpy didn't set out to be a criminal in life, right? So this information must have prompted Morgenthau to tell Bumpy before he left that he had some inside information that there is talk coming out of Mosque 7 to assassinate Malcolm X. Morgenthau tells Bumpy that this assassination attempt is supposed to be taking place in the next few days. And before he leaves, he says to Bumpy, do with that what you will. Next, we got Elijah Muhammad on the phone talking to Captain Omar and telling him, listen, nobody is supposed to touch Malcolm. I don't want him killed, this and that and the third. And then he says, let no man that is currently in the Nation of Islam do anything to harm Malcolm. All right. And so, that kind of talk right there just sounds good for the phones, right? Because if you look at the documentaries of all of these with Malcolm X and Martin Luther King and just different documentaries, you will see that the FBI had all of these guys' phones tapped. So I believe that Elijah Muhammad knew that, and so he knew the right things to say. But, according to some of these documentaries, he did send a lot of subliminal messages, okay, which brings me to this next situation right here that comes up. So Captain Omar gets off of the phone and he tells Henry that nobody in the nation is supposed to touch Malcolm. They're not supposed to kill him. And so what is the idea that Captain Omar comes up with? We're going to leave the nation for a day. All right. And so I don't want to, say too much about this, but like I said, if you're somebody like me and you've watched these documentaries, it's a lot of talk about the subliminal messages that their dear holy apostle sent out. All right. And these guys, they kind of knew what he was suggesting. All right. And I'm not saying in this instance that this is what he suggested, but I mean, in the words of Morgenthau, do with that what you will. Next, Bumpy sits down with Malcolm and he tells him about the threats. And Malcolm is like, look, none of that phases me. I get threats every day. I don't even pick up the phone anymore, okay? So Bumpy says, look, with this death talk in the mosque, you cannot just sweep it away. And so Malcolm is like, look, I always said that I do not expect to live to a ripe old age. And I love it when Bumpy was like, okay, you tell that to your little girls. There's too many times when people are like reckless about their own lives, like if they're in a certain type of occupation or just a lifestyle where they don't really care if they live long. A lot of times they have family members that do care, and so I really like the fact that Bumpy reminded him, okay, you may think like that, you may be okay with that, but your wife and your daughters are not going to be okay with that. You see, Bumpy didn't even bring up his wife, he brought up the baby girls. And that's something that's important to bring up, because in this life, it's not really about us. We're here for other people, whether we want to think that way or not. And we want to make our lives as great as possible. And we want to have fun and this and that. But we are here not just for ourselves. We're here for others as well. All right. And so this statement that Bumpy makes, it stumps Malcolm. He don't really know what to say. So, after Malcolm ain't got nothing to say to that, Bumpy was like, yeah, I ain't think so. And then Bumpy tells him, look, starting today, I'd like to put some of my men on your security detail. It will be discreet. Nobody will know, right? And so Malcolm is saying, no, thank you. I really appreciate it, but I have my own guys. Malcolm tells Bumpy that with the narcotics business that he's in, it's difficult for him to publicly accept Bumpy's help. And he says, it's not me being two-faced. That's me dealing with the realities of life, which you so often remind me to do, right? Then Bumpy says, and you remind me that when a gangster becomes political, white America will tremble. Then Bumpy adds that it works the other way too. If you want to be political, you got to be a little gangster. And I was like, what? Listen, guys, after Bumpy said that, I was like, mic drop. Okay, honestly, I'm not even gonna lie to y'all. I was over here like, I'm about to make that a quote of mine, even though I didn't make it. I didn't make it up. I didn't come up with it. But man, I loved that line so freaking much. And you could see that it definitely had Malcolm thinking. Next, we finally get an appearance by Mr. Adam Clayton Powell, okay? He's been pretty much gone all of this half season. And he's in the president's office right now, LBJ, and he's waiting for that phone call to see if the Civil Rights Act of 1964 will be passed, okay? And so President Johnson gets a phone call and he gets the news that it has indeed been passed. And, they celebrate together, they hug each other. And the president even gives Adam a lighter that was pretty sentimental to him. So it was a very nice moment and good to see Mr. Adam Clayton Powell again. So even though this is supposed to be good news, during this episode, we're going to see that a lot of people, they're not really accepting of it because you know what? This is just a piece of paper. So in this scene right here, we have the conversation between Nat and Chance. And, they're listening to the fact that the Civil Rights Act was just passed. And, Nat is like, oh, this is good news. Change is coming and everything. Chance, he's looking at it a different way. He's like, look, passing this law is not going to stop people from thinking the way they think. If Whitey hates me, I'm going to hate them, and Nat is like, you can't mean that, but Chance is saying, look, I'm just living in the world that I was born into. If they have nothing for me, I ain't got nothing for them. And this is what a lot of people think. And honestly, they had to think like this. Next, Stella sneaks out the house and she meets up with Ernie and she tells him, listen, my dad found out about everything. He doesn't know that they got married though. So Stella is saying, look, we need to tell him that we got married. And so Ernie is like, look, if we tell him that we got married, he's going to kill me anyway, right? And so Stella's like, no, but we did it to protect him, right? And so Ernie is saying, well, listen, that's not the only reason why I did it. I did it because I love you. So in this scene, guys, we hear Ernie profess his love to Stella and even tell her that he would give up this life, if he can have her and have children. Like, he really wants to be a husband to her, okay? Stella, she's open to all of this, She's like, if you really mean it, if my dad lays a finger on you, I'm going to rat him out to the feds. Next, Bumpy comes home and he finds that Mamie got hurt during the riot. So when Bumpy finds out that his wife got punched in the eye by a cop, he is ready for blood. Like, tell me who the cop is, he is dead, okay? But Mamie lets him know, look, it's out of control out there. There's no way you're going to go out and find nobody right now, So then Bumpy has to turn his attention to the more pressing matter at hand, which is that there is an assassination plot against Malcolm's life. So he turns to Elise and tells her that situation, okay? And we already know Elise, she loves Malcolm, so she definitely is not going to stand by while people are trying to kill him. So she tells her father that she has to go back to the mosque and see if she could find information. So even though Bumpy doesn't want her to go, especially since it's crazy out there, he tells her that he's going to send one of his guys to protect her as well. Next, Father Louie comes to talk to his brother Chin because Chin called him over and he's like, look, I already know why you called me and I'm just letting you know that we worked something out, right? Listen, Chin told everybody to leave, right? And before Father Louie could even really explain himself, Chin starts freaking ripping at his clothes and everything, like, are you wearing a wire, this and that, yoking him up and everything. And so Louie's like, get off of me. He starts yoking him up back and like, everything I've done for you, I've listened to your confessions. I protected you. I put my reputation as a priest on the line for you, and this is how you question my loyalty. It was just kind of funny to me because Chin is now like, you let me go, right? As he's listening, because he know his brother's right about everything that he's saying, so kind of make him feel a little stupid and everything. But so after they calm down, and Chin, he apologizes to his brother for freaking almost going off the daggone deep end. I'm telling you, Chin's temper is not good. All right. And the problem with Chin is that he reacts too quickly. And this is the reason why bad decisions have been made in this freaking episode. All right. Now, anyway, so Louie is able to tell him, listen, I came up with the idea that Stella and Ernie should marry each other so that they can't testify against each other. All right. So even though we know that Chin hates this news, he takes it well, right? So he's hiding the fact that he's pissed off by this, but we already know, right? Next, Elise gets to the mosque and she's in Captain Omar's office and he's not there. So before she can even start looking around, here comes Marnie. All right. And she's like, what are you doing in here? Leave this mosque now, you traitor. So Elise, she pushes her up against the wall, covers her mouth, right? And then she takes the daggone glasses off her face and says, you better tell me what the heck is going on before I shove these glasses up your freaking behind, right? And then she tells her, if you even think about lying to me, I will end you. Okay. And I was like, yes, honestly, I wanted her to do way more to Marnie than that. But that was good, I guess, for now. Next, Chin sits down with Lombardi and he tells him what quote unquote really happened to Benny. Okay, so we already know that this is a lie. He's telling Lombardi that Benny and Ernie had a dispute and Ernie shot Benny in the head. And so because Benny is a made man, Lombardi wants to know why the heck Ernie is still walking around. So Chin says, well, it won't be for long. I want you to take him out. So without even having to come up with a plan of how they're going to do it, when they're going to do it, here comes Ernie trying to take the opportunity, right, of this riot going on in Harlem, saying, you know what, let's hit the Harlem bank, right? It's a black owned bank. We go in there, we rob it. They're just going to blame it on the blacks anyway. And it's easy money for us, right? So this very plan that Ernie has is also going to help set in motion the perfect opportunity for Lombardi to kill Ernie. So this is what Chin says. He says, okay, you know what? I actually like your plan. I'm going to have Lombardi go with you. Next, we see that Congressman Powell is trying to get to his office and everything, but with all the rioting going on, the streets are pretty much blocked off. There's just bumper to bumper traffic and people are just going crazy in the streets, right? And this is the part that was made things really hard for me to watch because, this is based on history. So they were showing some real footage. It was just really hard to see what was going on. People being brutalized by the cops. A lot of people were hurt during the riot. You got these bloody faces and people being taken out on stretchers and things of that nature, right? It was just a little too hard for me to watch, to be honest with you guys. I don't want to dwell on that too much, but Congressman Powell, the point that I'm trying to make is that Congressman Powell, this is supposed to be a monumental moment for him, a historic moment for him to celebrate, right? But yet he's seeing riots going on. He's seeing injustices. It's right before his eyes. And so it's just very ironic that the day that the bill is passed, the Harlem riots also take place, right? And so he's like seeing that there is still so much work to do. He has tears in his eyes, and it was like I said, it was hard to watch, pretty emotional, right? Okay, so now we also see Chance and Nat. They made it back from wherever they were, right? Picking up the Duji, and they got the truck. They're trying to make it through the crowd, right? So they basically have to bombard their way through the crowds, right? If they had to run somebody over, they had to run somebody over. But thank God they didn't do that. Okay, so they make it inside of the warehouse. But Chance, he is concerned about the Duji, okay? They're burning stuff to the ground. And this is the biggest shipment that they've ever had. 3,000 keys. Okay, so they got the right to be concerned. This shipment couldn't have happened at a worse time. Next, Stella goes up to meet with her father, Chin, and she tells him that she has some news that he's not going to like. Ernie and her are married. And so, Chin is like, I already know. And so Stella was like, okay, and now what? Chin says, and I think he's a piece of crap, all right? He's he's a murderer, he's a thief, blah, blah, blah. Basically all the things that he is, right? And this is what Stella tells him. She says, just like you, Dad, a girl is always trying to find a piece of her father in a man, or a version of their father, right? And so, she's telling him, look, Dad, I love him. He wants to do better. If Ernie wants to do better, then maybe that'll help me to do better, right? And so she asks her father to promise that he will protect Ernie in the same way he protects her. And so, she's like, will you promise me that, Dad? And so, Chen has tears in his eyes and he says, yeah. So now he's made this promise to his daughter after already putting a hit out on Ernie. All right. So what does he have to do, guys? He has to try to hurry up and stop Lombardi from killing Ernie. Next, Chance calls Bumpy and tells him about his concerns. First he tells him the good news that we got the Duji, right? But then he tells him the concerns about people just setting everything ablaze, cops all over the place and everything. And so he's really concerned about the security at the warehouse. And so he's telling Bumpy that they need him to get down to the warehouse because they got to move the Duji. Okay, so Bumpy was like, all right, I'll be down there as soon as I can. But Elise comes in and she tells Bumpy that she's got news about when and where the assassination attempt on Malcolm's life will take place. So now this takes precedence over moving the Duji. So, Bumpy is telling Chance that he cannot get down there, right? And Chance is like, well, I don't know if I can control things from down here. We really need you here. And so Bumpy is saying, look, I got to take care of something. And all Chance could say is, hurry up, right? Next, Malcolm makes it to his interview. And while he's being interviewed, Bumpy is driving on his way to get to him as soon as he can. And we also have Chin on his way down to the area because remember, he is trying to stop Lombardi from killing Ernie. So while all this is going on, the two guys that are supposed to be waiting outside, they're Malcolm's security, right? They're waiting outside for Malcolm to be done. So these two idiots are both standing in the same direction, right? So none of them is watching each other's back. Like they're both facing one way. So this gives the opportunity for Henry and Captain Omar to come behind them and shank them the heck up. So back inside the interview that Malcolm is having, when he's asked about how he feels when it comes to the Civil Rights Act being passed, Malcolm says, look, that's just a piece of paper, and it bears little meaning to the situation that blacks face in America. The streets are rioting because a defenseless young black boy was killed by a cop. And so Malcolm is saying, how long will things like this go on? How long will a country that is supposedly dedicated to life and liberty continue to deny that same right to its black citizens? So now we get to Chin, right? And he's made it and he sees what's going on out in these streets, okay? It's crazy. There's fires, there's people busting windows out of cars. It's just mayhem, right? So he finds the bank, the United Bank of Harlem, I think it's called, and he goes in and he's calling Ernie's name. Ernie, Ernie, he doesn't hear anything. So then all of a sudden Ernie comes out of one of the vaults, right, carrying some money. Ernie's like, what are you doing here, boss, right? And he's like, Chen is like, where's Lombardi? Where's Lombardi? So he's like, Lombardi's over there, right? Then Lombardi comes out, guys, and what the freak happens? He shoots Ernie in the daggone head. And I was like, yo, if I was doing a reaction video or something, you guys would just see me freaking scream, okay? Because the crazy thing is, Ernie is not one of my favorite characters or anything like that, but I did like him, you know? And especially as the season went along, he just became more likable. And for this thing to happen, it was just, I didn't like it at all. And then on top of that, for Chin to come down there and Lombardi to just come out blasting, no, see what the boss wants. See why the heck the boss came down here. It was just kind of annoying that he just came out and just shot the guy like that. So, I mean, I expected that it wasn't going to turn out right, but this is freaking bad, guys. So anyway, Chen, he's ready to lose it. He's screaming, no. And then he says, Ernie, I tried, all right. Listen, this guy who freaking plays Chen, he is an phenomenal actor, guys. He's phenomenal. All right. Anyway, so next, Malcolm is done with his interview and he comes outside because he thinks he's going to be greeted by his security, right? But who's waiting there for him? Freaking brother Henry, who wanted to pull the trigger all along. He's been itching to kill Malcolm, right? So when Malcolm comes down the stairs, he now comes face to face with brother Henry, and brother Henry raises his gun to Malcolm. But before he could pull that trigger, Bumpy comes out of nowhere and slits his freaking throat just as quick, guys. And I was like, oh, listen, I screamed on this part too. Even though I wanted Henry to die, it caught me totally off guard. All right, so then here comes Captain Omar thinking he about to do something. And Bumpy said, go ahead and try. So obviously Captain Omar is not going to pull the trigger because Bumpy is ready for him. So him and Malcolm are looking in each other's eyes, right? And you can see the hurt on Malcolm's face because, Captain Omar used to be his friend, So Omar says, this ain't over. And he runs off. And, Bumpy was like, get the heck out of here. But I wish that Bumpy would have just shot him too. Like, if this man is a part of an assassination plot, he should not be walking away alive. That's my opinion, and that's what I think should have gone down. Nobody should get away free. You killed one, you might as well kill the other one too. But listen, regardless to how it went down, I was definitely proud of my man Bumpy for showing up for his friend, okay? He loved his friend. And that makes it sadder though, right? Because eventually he is going to lose this man. Next, as the riots escalate, we see inside the warehouse, a bottle has been thrown through the window and it sets the freaking Duji on fire, guys.
Holy shit, the Duji's burning up.
And all Chance, Nat, and Junie Bird can do is stand out there and freaking watch, all right? And they're like, what the heck was all of this for? There goes the French Connection, all of the things that we went through. Like, what the heck was it all for? And, that is a very good question. And this right here scares me because it's like, what's going to happen with Bumpy's organization for the next season? This to me is just turning up the heat, guys. Next, we see Chin at home telling his wife that Ernie is dead, right? And he's saying, look, I have to tell her. Then we go right into another scene where Stella is on the phone with Morgenthau and she's saying he should burn in hell for what he's done. So listen, she didn't waste no time to snitch, guys. Just like she told Ernie, if he lays a finger on you, I'm ratting him out to the feds. And that's exactly what she did. And I always had a feeling that Stella was going to be her father's downfall, okay? Because in the next scene, Morgenthau, he wastes no time. He comes pick Chin up and he leads him out in cuffs, okay? But it was also really sad to see him, telling his daughter, I understand why you're doing this. I tried to save Ernie. You got to believe me, right? It was just really sad to see him going through all of this with his daughter, but he was still accepting his punishment. And his only thing was that his daughter believed him. He just kept telling her, I didn't mean to hurt you and I need you to believe me. Like, that was kind of like his last request. Like, I can go to jail. I just need you to believe that I did not mean to hurt you and I tried to save Ernie. I need you to believe me. And of course, it was a really sad scene. So I'm not sure if they're going to have Chin in the next season. But these mob bosses, they still live like bosses in jail. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like a little vacation for them and everything. They still get good treatment and all that other kind of stuff. And plus, they have their kind up in there as well. But his wife is like, oh, I'm scared for you. And, don't worry, I'm going to get you out. I don't know about that. This is a murder charge. I don't know if that is what's going to happen. Okay, like, this girl is willing to testify against this man. So not sure if she's going to be able to get him out. Next, we get to the last scene where Malcolm and Bumpy are now at Malcolm's house. And they're both standing up by the window. The blinds are down. And they both have shotties in their hand, okay? Because they are ready for anybody that think they want to try something, okay? And once again, like I said, I love this friendship, and I love how, Bumpy's like, look, I may have foiled the plan this time, but for the rest of the night, I'm going to be right here protecting you. All right. And so they're both there on guard. And that is how the episode ends. It's a very powerful scene. I don't know if this happened in real life, but it was a dope scene, though. It was nice to see and everything. But that is how the episode ended, guys. That is how the season finale ended. All right. Just very emotional, very gripping, very hard to watch with some scenes. Powerful. The speeches, the interviews, the footage, just everything about this episode was powerful, right? But like I said, hard for me to watch. All right, but let me know what you guys thought about this episode. And that's it for the video for today, guys. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell so you know when I upload more videos like this one. Until next time, you guys take care and be blessed, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.
Irrelevant differences and make our nation whole.